Look, thank you very much for everyone turning up. And welcome to our first, welcome to our first virtual SydBUG. Obviously, it's very different times to 3 months ago when we had a few people in the Yarra office, and so yeah, we'll see how this goes over Teams, and yeah, give it a run. Righto. Oops. So look, I'd certainly like to acknowledge, for those, certainly those in Australia, acknowledge the traditional owners on the land that we meet, and their elders, past, present, and future. And I suppose I'll just give a quick rundown of the SydBUG for those who are probably just joining us for the first time. We're a sort of a very loose group of people, passionate Bluebeam users, passionate digital collaborators, who just want to get together in a really inclusive and friendly forum. Excuse me, and just share what we do, share tips, share tricks, and various other bits and pieces to help improve what we do. And look, we like to get people in from different parts of the world. That's Nathan Wood from CPC in March last year, and we've had a whole host of really great contributors and presenters. Shannon has done some great bits and pieces. This is Deepak. It's a lucky draw prize for us tonight, which we'll draw very soon. Just a quick rundown on I suppose the meeting. All the bug champs, all the committee members, as we like to call. So look, thank you very much for all the help you've been. Ben, Nick, sorry. I've got a really dodgy. Oh, that's actually a Min, not Nick 2. I will have to correct that for the next meeting. Sorry. Shruti and David, thank you very much for all your help. It's been really good having an extra set of hands on the committee to help us through. From a point of view of the hosts, well, we're all hosts tonight, considering we're all online. So yeah, welcome to our meeting. For our presenters tonight, we do have Kelly, who's the regional director at Bluebeam in Australia, or Australia, New Zealand, who's given us a bit of a rundown on Bluebeam's working from home and COVID-19 support that they've got available to everybody. Ben's chipping in, Ben Burns is chipping in with a bit of hatching, showing how you can do some really cool hatching across different aspects of Bluebeam and PDFs and all the rest of it. And Ben's going to give and Taylor is going to round out tonight, the evening rather, with a bit of a comparison between 2018 and 2019, just to sort of show people the improvements in the rendering and a few other things, and how it really has improved from some of the challenges we had last year. But before we crack into the presentations, I think I'll just do the lucky draw prize. So I've got a bag here with all our names in it. I'll give it a bit of a shake. Whoever it is, I'll send you an email and send you some details that Deepak's provided to share a digital copy of his book. Put a slide in somewhere, but anyway, sorry. Megan Johnston.
It's the regional marketing manager from Bluebeam. So we'll maybe have to redraw that.
I just fair if I took that.
Have another go.
It's only been with us a week.
How about you draw my name?
Oh, we've got Shruti. How's that?
Sorry?
Shruti, she's one of our bug champions. So I think we'll give it to her. That sounds fair.
Hey Russell,
yes.
Draw one more name. I'll send it to Shruti anyway. Draw one more name.
Okay, cool. No worries.
I've known Shruti for a few years. So.
Excellent.
Shouldn't we, as the hosts, be out of the draw? That's kind of like
probably, but you know, I was hoping not to pull anyone out. So Rob Day, is Rob on the line at all? No. Oh well.
All right, he's the proud owner of a new Bluebeam review book, authored by Deepak Meni.
Not sure about the rest of it. The forward's pretty awesome, I have to say. But anyway, so thank you very much for it. So Rob, I'll get his I'll send something out to him, and I'm sure Trudy will get herself a free copy as well. But yeah, look, let's crack on with tonight's presentations. And I'll hand over to Callie.
All right.
So yeah, hopefully I'll just unshare my screen and let you. Hopefully you should be able to share in.
Yeah, let me just make sure. Can you guys see? Oh, I think.
Oh,
let me know if you guys can see that.
Yep, certainly can.
All right, perfect. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much, obviously, for joining us tonight. Wishing that there was obviously beer and pizzas, but unfortunately, we'll have to ration for ourselves tonight. So just for those of you who don't know me, I'm the regional director for Bluebeam. I cover the Asia Pacific region, based here in Brisbane, Australia. So one of the things I kind of want to go over is obviously the way that Bluebeam is helping with the COVID-19 challenges. As you know, we've always prided ourselves as having a collaborative relationship with our customers. And I genuinely feel that that's what sets us apart as Bluebeam as an organization. So our approach to COVID-19 is essentially no different. We are trying to help you guys shift to a work from home environment and try to minimize that disruption by providing you guys with additional resources that can help in sort of these times as you're making adjustments to the way that you work. So a couple of resources here for you. So hot off the press, we have a work from home guide that we have designed to help you guys replicate your paper-based workflows with Bluebeam Review and studio sessions. I'll just go into that now. Again, this is completely hot off the press. So we've just localized it for the Australian market, specifically for this user group so that we could provide this resource. What I will do is have a link available to you in the SydBUG LinkedIn user group so that you can download it. Feel free to distribute it as you choose for people that are in the industry or anyone that can really benefit on your teams within your organization or from Bluebeam in general from a work from home environment, just so you guys can kind of get an idea. I'm hoping you guys can see that. But that's the table of contents there. So it's going to basically allow your teams, if they've never used Bluebeam Review before or trying to get a little bit more insight into how to use studio sessions for collaboration in real time, there is a guide there that outlines sort of step by step what you can do to get sort of an understanding of that. And another thing that we are doing, so over in our US office, we are providing you with some additional resources. One of those being there is a live series of remote webinars that are hosted by our training team as well as on-demand webinars. So if I go there, you'll see our official response to COVID-19. If you want to get some more insight from our CEO and our position as a company from a corporate perspective, that's all listed there. We also have this other resources tab. And again, I'll put these links all in the SydBUG user group in LinkedIn so that you guys have access to it. So you can see there, we do have some best practice guides for using Review remotely, working from home essentials. And here's the series that I was talking about. So our team in North America is doing these every single day. Back in the US, alternating weeks, there is the ability for people in Australia to catch it in Australian time zone. So that'll be on at, I believe it's 8 o'clock in the morning. So just click in there, register. If you can attend it, great. If not, you can catch it in a couple of weeks in real time. And then the other thing that we have available to you is obviously our on-demand series of webinars, which you can also find on our website if you search our webinars. So going back again, One of the things we're doing here locally, so we are providing webinars every Thursday as well. So that started last week, and that's going through all the way to the end of June. It's targeted at local government and infrastructure series, just simply because of the amount of work that we do have going on in Australia in that sector. Those are on from about 10 o'clock in the morning every Thursday to 10:45. Again, you can kind of find those on our global webinars page. So if you go here, just go to the events page. If you go to events type and you search global webinars, they'll all be listed here for you to assist. So that's all there. And again, if you miss any of these webinars, even if you're interested in catching up with how people are using it, using the software in, say, the UK or potentially in Germany, if that floats your boat, you can get all of the recorded webinars here listed below. All right, and then finally, we do have 2 resources that you have access to here locally. So we've recently hired 2 people, one, Sean Toomey, who's our industry solutions manager. So if you're needing any assistance, tips and tricks, if you want to get any demonstrations at all, we're here to help to get you up and running. You can reach him at that email address there. As well, we have hired a local technical support specialist. So if you're just needing to get the software actually up and running or help with deployments or anything like that, you can contact us at support.apac@bluebeam.com, and that will basically route you to Doug Abreu, who's our senior technical support specialist covering the APAC region, and he is based in Brisbane. And again, if you want to have a chat, talk to somebody on the phone, you can contact us on that telephone number in between 9 to 5 p.m. Australian Standard Time. And then finally, if you're working with our wonderful partners here in Australia, we do have a local reseller network that is able to help you with all of your technical training and software needs. You can just go to our Find a Reseller page, and that'll be listed on our main site. And anywhere across the country, as well as New Zealand, depending on where you're based. And even if you kind of cross over and have offices in Southeast Asia, you'll be able to find a local partner there that can also assist. But again, just to get, kind of the official response here, there is the ability for you to get all your resources to get you up and running here on our official COVID-19 page. All right. And that's me done. So I believe I'm handing it over to Ben.
Thanks, Kelly.
No worries.
Yeah. Thanks very much, Kelly. Yep. All yours, Ben.
Okay. Can everyone hear me? Hopefully. Yep. Okay. I'll just share my screen. Hopefully that's all nice and clear as well. Yep. Can you see my screen? Yep. I assume everyone can see my.
Yep, can see that, Ben.
Okay.
Yep, all good.
Yeah, so I'll just go into review now. So I've just got the standard version or the extreme version. And I'm just going to open up one of my recent ones, which I've got my metric plan here. It's just one of the typical data sets that we have. Funnily enough, it is in feet, but I do have a dodgy scale there as well. So as we know, the first thing that we want to do when we get in is calibrate our work set. So I'm going to go to calibrate here. I find it's good to use the scale if they've got it, but I always like to use a scale bar if they've got it as well, because that way if there is a slight issue in when they've printed the drawing or whatever, so I sort of have a lot more faith in a bar scale than I do in a written scale. Generally as well, it's quite good to just look if you've got like one of the furthest dimensions. So if you've got a dimension going from like grid 1 to grid 29 or something, like I'd use that. But in preference to that, I will use a bar scale. So I'm just going to calibrate that now just by picking that point there and the far point. It's 32 feet, which roughly equates to approximately 10 meters. So I'm just going to use that for this exercise and apply the scale. One thing you can do as well, which a lot of people do know of, but just while I'm here, be aware that you can create another viewport. So if you go to your measure icon or through your tools and the measure, you can add another viewport in. So if you did have an area over here where you had like a 1 to 20 detail, you can add that viewport in, select the region to define that viewport, and then apply a 1 to 20 scale from there. And you'll have that viewport there as well. So if you do a dimension in here, it will calculate it to that 1 to 20. So I think it's a good thing to show that that'll create there. So there's a few different ways to apply a hatch. As we know, we have the normal area measurement, which is this one, which we can get through the tools and the measure as well to get an area. Another good one to use is our dynamic fill. So I'm just going to use that just to show again how that works. So once we activate dynamic fill, if you're trying to do it in like a toilet area or something as such, you may need to define the boundary and add like a new boundary element in to sort of close off the room as such. I'm not going to worry at this stage. I'm just going to use my fill button here. And I'm going to make sure I have area selected here as well. And if I now just select a point in here, we do have filters in here. So this is where you can set the boundary size, set your fill size and your fill speed, and even change the color of your fill if you chose to. So I'm just going to fill inside this circular, and we can see that that'll fill and it'll pick up the end of that boundary. And once I've got that, it's then just a matter of applying to get the area in there. So now we've got the area of that opening. So what I want to do now is apply a hatch to this area. So when you go in through here, you can get the hatch through here, and it will also be on your properties as well. So you've got hatch here. So we've got a few standard hatches in there. So there is a brick, diagonal brick, few dimensional ones, horizontal, diagonal, etc., and some dot ones. So just to apply a normal hatch, I'm just going to apply the diagonal down, and you can adjust that color, and you can also adjust the size. So that's how to simply do a hatch. You can save these as a label, and obviously it will go into your tool chest in your recent tools as well to reuse if you'd want to reuse that particular hatch. A way to customize them. So to create like a Bluebeam hatch, we can go under the hatch here. We can also access this through the properties and through right clicking on the hatch, and we can go to manage the hatches. If we go to manage, we can see I do have some other ones in there, but that's your standard hatch one there. And we can import and export these hatches. So if you wanted to push that out to your company, whatever, you could save that on the network and have those hatches there. So I'm now going to add a new set. So if we go to add, I can create a new type. So this is adding your hatch pattern set. I can give this a name of, I'll just put in sample hatch. And okay, and remembering that the relative path sets it up with your profile, where if you do deselect that, it will be an absolute path. And okay, and now we've got, so this is the hatch pattern editor that sits inside this set here. So we can now add a new hatch. So I'm just going to give this one a name of like tiles, for instance. And you get this little drawing tablet here. So we have the ability to draw lines, to put in small dots, large dots. It's got a delete and a clear as well. So we can change the size of this if we just want it to be a better grid, to sort of give us more grid points or whatever, and we can snap to the grid as well and change the appropriate line width. This window will give you a bit of a profile. So if I just draw a bit of a line from here, you can see that it will automatically snap around to these points. So if I sort of pick that point there, and you'll see that that sort of previews what the hatch would look like. So you can see that, and then I can just save that off, and it's in my sample hatches. I'll just do another one quickly as well. So if I now go and I wanted to modify those hatches, so I can go, I've got the tile one there. I could put in another new one as well. So I might make this concrete just for an example. And then I've got that same interface. So you can see how it's updating that preview. And again, I can save that. So that's saved it in that set. And I can go now, OK. And when I select this hatch, I will see now that I've got both those ones in there. So if I go down the bottom, I've got my tiles. And I can do a new area. So just to select here, for instance, I'll just do a new hatch. So I'll just use the area hatch now this time and just pick that room there. And hit enter to apply it. And then I can change that to the concrete hatch that I've got. And you can also change the labels in that hatch as well to like give you a length, etc. So that's just how to basically create a plain sort of Bluebeam hatch and the way you can customize the internal Bluebeam hatches. If I wanted to import hatches, so you can import Cad Hatches. So for that, I'm just going to select this one here. And again, this time I'm going to go through the properties and change the hatch through here and go to manage. Now I can import a hatch, but that will push me through and want a Bluebeam hatch set. So I can actually import Cad Hatches. So if I go to add, and I can create a new hatch here. So I'll just call these, again, I'll call these Autocad hatches. And OK. And what I can do is import Autocad patterns. So I do have this. So this is where it generally paths Autocad hatches to. So it goes to like your user folder, app data roaming under Autodesk, and keep going through your AutoCAD 20 menu support and get your .pat file. And that file there is the one you're after. So I'll just grab that directory, place that down in here, and find my AutoCAD pattern file. Now this contains all the hatches. When I put that in, we'll see that it'll populate with all the AutoCAD hatches through here. So again, you could use these to sort of again customize and save, and then use that pattern and slightly change these patterns if you chose to. So that's just brought in all the AutoCAD ones. If I go OK now and OK, I'll see that in my hatches, I've now got all the AutoCAD hatches available in through here. So it's a good simple way to sort of get a lot of hatches that you wanted through there. I'm going to go to AutoCAD now. I know that this may be either a stretch too far or of interest to some, but not to all. Going back to like a basic AutoCAD 2020. So I've got a folder here where I've like created some hatches and the like. So what I want to do first, if I want to load a Lisp routine, which will allow this to be easily manipulated into a pattern file, which I can then bring into Bluebeam Review. So I'm going to load an application and this custom hatch Lisp. This will be available to everyone as well, but just be aware that I'm not the author of this Lisp. So just be careful. And like with all Lisp routines, they can have some they can be buggy, so just be aware and use with caution. So I'll just load that in now and close. So that Lisp routine is in there now. It does work best, like, so what I'm doing is I'm going to use a text here that will sort of put a symbol into this, because we saw before it was quite clunky, and to be able to get like that, so we can have like reinforced concrete or the like running in behind that, and almost not need to have a label to be able to just read off the hatch what it is. You do need to have quite a blocky text, because it doesn't work very well with circles. It sort of does trip out the program. So I've found a font here, which is on the 1001 fonts. That's quite a blocky font, doesn't have a lot of circles in it and it's quite blocked off. So I'm now going to just grab a bit of text and copy that across, and I'm going to call that.
Hey mate. Good.
Oh. Yeah. Someone just
Like,
someone
I'm
unmuted me off.
open conference at the moment. No, I've just been completely mate.
Can you turn your microphone off, please, or mute,
Yeah,
please?
just everyone mute off. Yeah. Okay, hopefully everyone can still hear me. Yep. Okay, yeah, so I've got a basic text in here, which is nice and blocky. So what I'm going to do now is I can select that text and go through my Express tools, and I can explode that text. When I explode it, it does like to go on a bit of a wander, but I can get it here. So what I want to do is just, I can see it's changed it all to polylines, but even with the blocky text, it has sort of changed a lot of things and that. So I just want to explode that again. So I just get the raw lines in there. And then I just have to go through a little bit of a process of cleaning that up. So it won't take too long. It'll probably take me a little bit longer in the live demo than it did doing it before. So it's just a matter of cleaning it up, getting it all down to just basic lines. So I've got that now, and what I can do is just copy that text, and I've got a basically an area in here, which, so if I use my Lisp routine now to actually draw hatch, that will actually draw me that little box there. So it's drawn a pattern. So I've got to draw a pattern now within this box that it's created. I have done this before. So now I'm just going to move that into that, scale it up a bit. And I'm going to rotate that as well. So I've now got that sort of centrally in that hatch. What I want to do now is, using the Lisp routine as well, I can save the hatch. So I'm going to save that hatch. And select the objects. So I need to select what's inside that square. And then I can put on that, that's my carpet. And I'll just save that to my desktop. So what that has done is I did got a little error in there, but it should be okay. I will just check the hatch. So if I go to my desktop now, I can see I've got that carpet pattern. So if I open that file, what it's done is it's sort of broken out all the points into points that it can recognize. If I just show you quickly, under those AutoCAD hatches that it does bring in, it does have these individual patterns. So that's the individual pattern. And if you did want to bring that in as a set, you can go to like a structural, like to a set, and then you can copy in each of those pattern files so that you can load it all in one like by loading in the whole set rather than just one. So now that I've created that hatch, what I'm going to do is go back to Bluebeam now. And I'll create another hatch. So I'm just going to create another area now. I'll just do this one pretty roughly. Use perimeter. Yep. Don't use perimeter. Just use. And I can now get that hatch. So I do need to load that in as usual. So I will go to the manage. And I can load this in as per the other one. So I can add a new hatch, create a new one, and I'll call this one carpet. And then I will import the AutoCAD pattern again. So I'll go back to my desktop, grab that carpet pattern, and bring that in, and I can now see that that will place the carpet on that, and OK. And then you still actually have to pick, because I've loaded it into the system, but I haven't actually allocated it yet. So when I go here, I can grab carpet there, and that'll put a nice sort of carpet hatch under my area. So that can work pretty well to do that system, and then it's almost like you don't need to have a label on it, even though you could label it here as carpet with a small a. And I could still label it there, but it's good to just have that almost that visual representation of the hatches. And that's about me done. So I'll open it up to the floor and to the host, Russell. And if anyone's got any questions, feel free to shoot them through now.
Cool. Yeah, thanks. Anyone have any questions at all for Ben?
I think you have to unmute everybody.
Or do I?
Yeah.
Cool.
Just to double check. Or everybody can unmute themselves if they want to ask a question.
Here we are. Anyway, yeah, look, please unmute yourself and ask a question, or even chuck it in the conversation. At all, if you can get the conversation. Or quite happy to please email and at A2K if you've got any questions, and I'll certainly upload this and share a link to the Lisp file as requested in our studio project post meeting. Thank you, Ben. That was really, really informative. Quite good use of Lisp and link to AutoCAD and putting it together.
Yeah, it was a bit broad. Hopefully, it didn't throw some people off with AutoCAD, and some people probably aren't running for the hills. But it's sort of just showing a bit of how you can relate the two things to each other. And I probably may have flied through it a bit quick for some people that aren't quite efficient with CAD. So I did use a few hotkeys on that. But yeah, you can probably slow down and replay the video if you chose to, or again, like I said, hit Russell up or me if you've got any questions. I'm quite happy to answer.
And Ben, if required, if somebody wanted you to do a demonstration of this, how would they contact you after the meeting?
Email would be best. So
Okay.
just my email, which I'm happy to give out, which is Ben Burns with the dot in the middle at a2ktechnologies.com.au, and you'll get me through there.
No worries. Okay, Jackie. Thanks, everyone. We might hand the floor over to Ben Taylor this time. And he's going to do a bit of a comparison of 2018 and 2019. So over to you, Ben. Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. Can you see my screen, the render comparison one, and can you hear me?
Yep, all good.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Okay, awesome. I'm just doing a high level, I suppose it's a catch up and to show people what the differences between 2018 and 2019 rendering is, because they've actually made some very, very significant changes to how Bluebeam does its rendering and what engines they use in the background. Just to go through the really high level options first, and then I'll actually show you some examples and how that actually makes a difference. So fundamentally, between 2018 and 2019, the biggest changes is for Revit 2018, there was the standard, the GDI, and the advanced skier rendering engines. Essentially, both of them excelled at slightly different things. So depending on what your documents were, so and depending on the content of, say, your PDFs or drawings or reports or what have you, one is better at rendering certain elements, one is better at rendering other elements faster, more quickly and accurately. 2019 had a pretty major change. As part of it is it had the new hardware rendering option. For those that aren't already using 2019, basically what this does is for those really difficult elements, so such as aerial imagery on the background of drawings, especially in, when it's being used for linear infrastructure and like large roll plans, or really complex hatches or very, very large amounts of hatching, especially with complex hatch patterns or transparent elements. That has in the past, especially in 2018, been rather slow. So tabbing between drawings in a multi-drawing set can be not that quick. You might have to wait 10, 15 seconds between ones. But with this new hardware rendering option, there's some pretty significant speed differences option. So effectively what it does is it uses your onboard graphics card on your computer to just help give the extra rendering speed and to your documents. So what that does is when you're panning or zooming or tabbing between drawings, I think it's up to 6 times faster compared to 2018 on a similar drawing with a similar computer. So it's pretty significantly better. For those rendering options, the changes between 2018 and 2019 for 3D aren't really significant. They haven't added any new options, but the hardware option in the background, they've changed the coding in there and how it works. So that improvement has flowed through to updating the 2018 and 2019 drawings as well. So what I'll do is before that, I'll just show you some examples. So I've got a very, very, very large bridge model here. So I'll go through and show you both in 2018, then I'll show you both in 2019 for these. So this is a bridge model of one of the bridges that we've done at Arup, of the Harwood Bridge crossing. Do you know what river, Russell? I can't remember.
I believe that was it's Clarence River, I think.
The Clarence River. So that's on the Pacific Motorway, heading up towards Queensland. So it's a very extensive structure. I think it's 2-point-something kilometres long. Is that about right, Russell?
So yeah, it's on W to B. So this is a bridge that replaces the lift bridge at Harwood.
Yeah.
I think this one's about 1.6, I think. But yeah,
Okay.
it's quite a significant.
It's a very extensive structure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So even how complex this element is and all the different structures, it's very. I'm not deliberately trying to slow my mouse movements or anything, but it's quite seamless and smooth how it shows the different structural elements and going through, like we're panning through the piles and so on. So if I then show you that exact same model in 2019, it's just even better. So I can start whipping things. If I'm started moving my mouse quite quickly, it essentially shows that same elements even better and even faster. So essentially you can do your work faster, really. You can go and do your measurements and markups and elements a lot quicker. So me looking through the headstock details and all the different bridge structures, I can do the work I need to do quicker and easier when it's when the rendering elements for all those are significantly faster. Doing a comparison for a 2D set, large hatch areas in particular, so these hatches as well also extend kilometers either side of the page, and a multi-layered transparency. So I've got any really faint existing grey hatch with, you know, overlay works and then additional pavement works around the outsides. Tabbing between elements like that, as you can see on the left-hand side at the top left, the load screen. So on 2018, again, this is a very, very heavy. There's a huge number of hatch elements on here that are it just slows down the rendering. So when you're swapping between pages, you can definitely notice that lag time. So once it's done the first page, when you tab back, it's already cached it. So it doesn't take the time to swap between them anymore. But you could see the very first time that it took quite a while. So other elements that take quite a while in terms of that load bar is that same area with an aerial, just due to the file size involved, and also Bluebeam's trying to calculate that all the different vertices of all the polylines on top of the aerial imagery, it can take a while to load. And same thing up here. So to push forward to go to in 2019 those same areas, I'll go through the settings for these in a moment, but essentially it's sped up these ones quite considerably for these ones. So these drawings are about as bad as you can get in terms of trying to push Bluebeam's rendering as far as it can go. So if I had a much nicer one, you would see a much more significant difference in time. With this one, it's about 50 or 60% faster, which is very considerable, but that's because I'm trying to push it as hard as it can really go between these ones. So essentially for that one, it was only about a second. I didn't even see you don't even see a load bar on the different ones to tab between the drawings. You don't even get the blue loading bar, which is part of the rendering element. I'll just share this one again quickly. So I'll go through and actually show you how you open these settings, but I just thought I'd go through a few suggested ones to actually make use of it. So even if you have 2018 to try and give you the suggested settings that I would pick that would make your life a lot easier, and especially when you're working with large drawing sets and large document sets that have a lot of complex rendering elements like I've shown you. So you can access these settings by, which I'll show in a moment, under Review and clicking the preferences, then selecting advanced. And then, so for these ones, I suggest you use, so I've shown the example for 2019, but I'll show both in practice. But here, the example I've shown here is the 2D rendering one for, I very much suggest you use the hardware rendering engine in Bluebeam 2019. As I said, it is using that extra graphics card element for your computer to give it the extra boost. So and it does make a big difference on rendering times. If you don't have 2019, consider getting it. But if not, then I suggest you use the skier. I found it for most linear infrastructure drawing elements. So that's very much aimed at linear infrastructure in this regard. The skier engine renders the elements faster and than the standard GDI element, which is the default. I highly encourage people to always select wait for completion. There are several rendering modes in there, which I'll go through when I open it up. They actually load, if you do partial rendering, so it partially loads, it actually loads more slowly, because what it does is, depending on if there's multiple layered elements, so if you have hatches and wipeouts and so on that do ones, the way Bluebeam actually loads all those, it loads it from the ground floor upwards. So it loads the relative draw order of all your elements from the bottom upwards. And so that can increase your render times. I always like to pick enhanced inlines because it means that no matter what you're doing on your drawings, you're seeing all those elements that may get blurred out sometimes when you zoom in and out. Blend modes, I suggest you turn on. What that does is it accurately shows the elements, in particular, say polylines overlapping each other. It shows them correctly the way they should be shown in CAD. You can disable that so it shows those elements where it doesn't merge them, and say if there's certain levels of transparencies where it brings the correct coloring through, you can disable that to speed things up. But then say what prints out of the printer may not necessarily be exactly what's on your screen because of it hasn't taken into account that blend mode. Another good trick to fix things, if you have some really difficult drawing sets in particular, try changing your custom resolution down from the say the default. So the default on almost all our systems on the PCs that I work with is the 96 ppi, which is by the system. Reducing that number will not have any significant impact on what you can visually see, but what it will do is it will significantly increase the speed at which things are rendered for you. What I'll do is actually go and show you where to go those elements. So you find them under Revu and under Preferences, and then under the Advanced tab. So in here we've got those rendering. So we've got the three different options: the hardware, the software, and the legacy GDI. I suggest you use wait for completion as opposed to the iterative draw, because as I said, iterative draw will load multiple elements, and if there's overlapping elements, we'll load the elements at the base first, so that effectively it just increases the time it takes to load it. Enable render view, the enhanced inlines and blend modes are suggested. With 3D, so this option menu between 2018 and 2019 hasn't changed. I don't think it's needed to, because it's got essentially most of what you need. It hasn't got a new option for hardware, but the coding in the background that Bluebeam's done, that they've all, even in 2018, it's had this hardware DirectX option. But some of the coding that Bluebeam's done in the background has improved the speed on 3D rendering as well. Lastly, I'll just share this on the screen again. Other things to check, or if your renders are slow or you have really difficult drawing sets, look at the tips on improving the performance on the support.bluebeam.com are really fantastic. So other things that impact Bluebeam and your computer as a whole that you may not realize is make sure that your Microsoft elements are updated, such as the Visual C++, the .NET framework, and updating your GPU driver. So in this case, your graphics card on your computer. So even if you have a laptop and it doesn't, almost all of them these days, especially if they're, say, a CAD machine or something to that like, have a dedicated standalone graphics card. And so make sure that the drivers for them get updated, because your IT team may not necessarily do that. Additionally, if you are using a computer with an NVIDIA GPU, they have additional settings under the NVIDIA control panel, which you can override the performance settings of how it manages Bluebeam. So I can show you how that works. So with NVIDIA, so on all our computers, we have the desktop manager, but it has the control panel element, which I can open up here. And what it does is it lets me change the settings. So under 3D settings and manage 3D settings, it lets me modify cancel. It lets me modify it. So I've set for Bluebeam, because I have 2018 and 2019 installed. So I've set for Bluebeam, I've forced it to maximize the performance on power management. With a lot of computers these days, a lot of people will be on laptops, and depending on how IT sets up your ones, your computer might have the grunt to be able to do all these things without using some of the other settings I've given you. But power management, so what it does is it restricts the amount of energy goes to your CPU and graphics card to increase battery life on your laptop. But that has a very, very, very significant impact on how fast all your programs work. So certain programs you won't notice a difference, but other really graphics intensive ones will. So in this case, when Bluebeam's rendering those hatches, we see it as a simple process, but the actual math in the background to render those correctly is quite difficult. So maximizing the performance on those things is really critical, because they'll come through significantly quicker for you. And that's where you find it under the NVIDIA control panel, where you can change it in the power management mode. Other places you can change are check your power management under your computer itself, and your battery settings, because they may need to be amended to suit as well. You might your IT settings might be to such that it artificially restricts how some of your programs can operate to their at their best. Yeah, does anyone have any questions from that?
I would just say that was pretty good.
That was really thorough. That was brilliant. Well done.
Yeah, definitely answered a lot of questions that I've always had about that sort of stuff.
No, thank you. Yeah, no, it's one thing that I'm particularly. I know Kelly's had this question from me many times about. I do a lot of work over huge linear infrastructure jobs, and I've always needed massive amounts of aerials and really long roll plans. So like AO 5 meter PDFs to cover the whole job on a site and multiple viewports and so on. And I'm asking a lot. I fully appreciate I am asking an incredible amount from say Bluebeam in that instance to render all those things quickly and effectively. And then I'll always have people asking questions like, it loads faster in Adobe. I'm like, well, in certain instances and in older versions of Bluebeam, yeah, it did. But Adobe Acrobat can't hold a candle to Bluebeam in every other aspect. So they've done a lot of work to update and improve those systems, and it really shows. And it's made that really fantastic. Another really good one that people aren't, if you're not sure about, is reduce your file size. If you just keep it on that balanced image retention, what it does is it goes through and identifies all the different elements in it and simplifies them all in the PDF itself. Because the way, say, Autocad in this instance produces the PDFs is not the most efficient way whatsoever. And so that balanced image retention should not, by and large, you may have corner case issues where it, say, degrades the font or anything, or it degrades your line quality. I have had that in very rare occasions in the past, but not for a very long time, and not since I've been using 2018 or 2019. Revu, that is, Revu 2018 and 2019. But that can have a significant difference in your render speeds, especially if you've got really large drawing sets again, 40, 50 pages of A1s and nothing but, layouts with aerials and, really complex hatches on them, or large amounts of hatches. You'll notice a very significant improvement in your rendering speeds as you go.
Hey, Ben, I'll give you, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, of course.
Another one I came across doing a support question was if you go into edit and create.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Now when we're going to, it's on my screen.
It's all good. And re-PDFing the PDF.
File create, sorry. Yep. Yeah, I had a customer. It was a file that was created from another PDF sort of creator add-on for like whatever CAD software, and it made shocking PDFs. And we couldn't work out with this reputable architectural company why their PDFs were so bad to use. If you do file create from and it reestablishes, and it made massive differences, and that was in 2018 as well.
Yeah. No, so I forgot to put that in there because I've definitely seen that as one of the tricks as well. So you can take an example one, recreate a PDF based on that one, and it has a huge, it can have a huge difference in say speed compared to and usability and like panning and the line quality and everything for that, because as you said, yeah, some of those PDF producing programs like of certain CAD version, like certain CAD software, can produce remarkably terrible PDFs considering that is, you know, fundamentally the only thing that program is designed to do. It's quite shocking. Really.
You had one job and you did it badly. Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah. Anyone have any other questions?
I've just got one. Do these sort of settings also help when you've got, you know, a PDF with a ton of layers and a ton of markups?
Yes, they should. So those general settings I went through, and we can definitely show everyone again. So we got the recorded one which had the screenshot, and I can share some of those other ones like in the additional tips to check, and we can try and add an additional one for what Shanok mentioned as well as in re-PDFing it. Yes, they should make a big difference with large amounts of layers and annotations as well.
Yeah, Ben, just wanted to add one thing here, especially if your PDF file has got a lot of SHX fonts, then recreating definitely works a lot better.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so SHX fonts in particular, you know, can cause Bluebeam a lot of headaches is the wrong word, but they can definitely slow down the render because an SHX font isn't like a true type font. Like it consumes much more rendering power for the CPU and the GPU from the way it renders it, which is one thing that people don't really think about or necessarily when they do that. So one suggestion for those ones, Nick, in case you're finding, especially when there's large amounts of annotations, are your comments in your tool chest that you send around to your or your teams, are your or your text set in true type fonts in your annotations and in your drawings?
Oh, I'm not sure. That's a good question.
Yeah, just basically pull out those sheets.
Yeah, no, that's okay. It's just that's one thing that you can look at that may give you a significant improvement in that area. Okay, well, I might hand back to you now, Russell.
Cool. Well, thanks, Ben. That's awesome. Yeah, that's some really good tips there. I'm sure everyone's had grief with those elements. Lost Bluebeam over the years. Look, thanks everyone. I think we're pretty much heading towards the end of our presentation, and thank you very much to all the players, to Kelly and to Ben Burns and Ben Taylor, and to everyone else who's contributed questions and comments as well. It's really, really helpful and something we really want to encourage and I really love about this group. Just a few closing announcements, just so we can wind up and get everyone back to their families in a minute, or not even that. Look, please join our LinkedIn group. I'll certainly send a message and a thank you message around to everybody and share a few links to the LinkedIn group and a couple other bits and pieces. Hopefully, and there's a few other things. There's Bluebeam communities on LinkedIn as well as our LinkedIn, which has a lot of great information. And hopefully this recording will be available on the BUG YouTube channel in a week or so once we've tidied it up and got everything hunky-dory. Hopefully, plan is for the next meeting to be on the 1st of September, Tuesday, 5 p.m. So doing another virtual event. I would imagine we'll still be in some sort of lockdown or something. It'll be a little bit less, hopefully, touch wood. But I would imagine we won't be back to the physical or face-to-face events for a wee while. That's okay. We'll make the most of this. And look, I know we're in Teams at the moment, but the bug champs will go away and have a bit of a think about whether or not Teams has worked and whether there's other opportunities to use other software that might be a bit more user friendly. And look, please, if you've got any, if you do want to present, I know John put his hand up, do a presentation next, or volunteer himself, or something like that. Yeah, look, we'd love to have you come along and present your workflows, and I think Arcade is keen to present one of their workflows as well at their next event. So, yeah, great place to share.
Yeah, and just to add to that, Russell, maybe in our LinkedIn user group, if there's any topics that you guys want to see or anything you guys want to learn more about, I think it's a great way to kind of share it in that forum. And then that way, maybe somebody goes, hey, I'm already doing that at work. I can actually kind of give you a quick, overview of this at the next user group or something like that. So we actually know what you guys want to see, because we obviously want to make sure that the content and what we're presenting to you guys is of value.
Yeah, quite indeed. Couldn't agree more. And look, just to give a few plugs to our partner organisations and groups. Building Smart Australia, one of our key digital groups in the region. They have a digital infrastructure network linking group. Please reach out and join that. There's lots of great links in there to a whole heap of different events. Please look into the Building Smart events calendar. There's a lot of stuff being rotated onto and migrated into virtual events. There's a really great festival happening at the moment that Building Smart are doing. There's a heap of webinars over the next 4 to 6 weeks. There's 96 hours or something of webinars across that have been shown across the world on demand and live. So please tune in to different things. For local Sydney people, and I'm sure there's a version of this in different places as well. Yeah, look, please look out for your Revit user group in Sydney. Great bunch of people who talk all things Revit. I believe one of their next meetings, which is talking about BIM track. I'd imagine it's virtual as well, is on the 16th of June. So yeah, look, please reach out. You may not get pizzas just like we used to have. And also too, a key group that a lot of people use, a lot of programming language a lot of people use in their day-to-day work, is a Dynamo group. So please look them up. Those links there. Reach out to those guys. Look, that brings us to the close of our meeting. Thank you very much for tuning in. Really appreciate you taking your time out of the evenings and listening. Thank you to our presenters. Thank you to Deepak for putting up that book, which is a great read and a great help. And there's some great content in there about how to maximise and make the best use of working. And look, yeah, have a great evening, and looking forward to seeing everyone or online again in September. So yeah, thank you and good night.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Russell.
Thank you,
Russell. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thanks, Russell.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Russell.
Bye.
See ya.
Thank you. Cheers. Bye.